Seltzer Kings
podcasts.
Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a one-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
Why, hello, little lady. Can I hold those milk pails for you?
Why, thank you, but they're not very heavy. Why have you come to our lonely small town, which has no post office and very few exports?
I've come looking for a man. A salesman.
But what else could I expect from a bunch of low-rent, no-account hoodlums like you? Hoodlums, yes, I mean you and your friends, your whole sex. Throw them in the sea for all I care. Throw them in and wait for the bubbles. Men with your groping and spitting all groin, no brain, 3 billion of you passing around the same worn-out urge. Men with your sales.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Boys Watching Buffy. We're two boys who have watched all of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and now we're getting into some rewatches. Starting off with Restless. We're your hosts. I am Joe Welke.
I am Vance.
And yeah, today we're going back over Restless. The original air date was May 23rd, 2000. Directed by Joss Whedon, written by Joss Whedon, Douglas Petrie, Tracy Forbes. And this was an episode that upon initial review, I remember not enjoying. I remember us not really enjoying the premise and dreamlike stuff about it. But before we launch into all of that, we got a shout out. Shout out. We got a big, hearty, and happy shout out to our main person in Canada, EMAD fan. Thank you so much for your Apple Podcasts 5-star rating and review all the way from Canada. Thank you, EMAD fan. If you want to get a shout out, Apple Podcasts 5-star rating and review, Spotify 5-star rating, take a screenshot of it, send it in to us, and we will shout you out.
EMAD fan from Montreal.
There you
very
go.
Specific. I've been to Montreal twice. Enjoy it. Loved it there. It's good times.
Yeah.
Good times.
Pretty.
Yeah. Pretty. Yeah. It's good food. Great food.
Did you have to speak Quebecois?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I do not know much French at all. At all.
All right.
At all.
Well, yeah, man. Join our Discord. We got a lot of lively stuff going on there. I'm sure it'll be lively after this episode when we're re-examining Restless, see all the stuff that we chatted about. Join our Discord, join our Patreon, where we're still making our way through Angel, Boys Watching Angel. It's patreon.com/Boys Watching Buffy. We're also got Boys Watching Movies, Joe's Fashion Report /Corner, which has taken a life of its own. It's all over the place now, since I'm not really reviewing episode by episode. Now I just got Tatas for now doing a bunch of stuff. And we'll see. We plan on continuing that blind reaction series. So check that out.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
As I crack open my Skittles C4.
Oh, I was thinking about going for it.
I'm going for it. I did not. Oh, and it did not crack open well.
You can't open it, Vance.
It rubbed off. You rubbed off on me.
No, I think last week the tab broke in the middle of me.
Tab broke, yeah.
Yeah, as I was trying to open it, the tab broke off, and I was like, "Oh fuck!"
Yeah,
I
don't think I've ever had that happen. I'm on very little sleep, but I got a lot of energy, and this is only going to help it.
Yeah, yeah. If I'm being honest with you, So I laid this out to Vance before we started recording. So I watched the episode again. Vance,
I gotta
real hard time opening.
Yeah, I'm not trying to cut my finger on that sharp edge there.
Yeah. But I watched the episode Restless 2 nights ago, ruminated on it, thought of it, wrote down some initial notes, and then I was like, there's got to be more to this episode that I might not be. Maybe I'm not understanding some stuff. I want to get a full grasp of what all of this stuff is, because I felt like I had a pretty decent grasp on it the first time around. I know it was foreshadowing a bunch of stuff that I didn't understand at the time, but now going through the entire series, I was like, okay, I see where that's foreshadowing this. I see where that's foreshadowing that. I just wanted to cover all my bases, make sure I didn't really miss anything. So I watched a couple of like YouTube breakdowns of it. I went through a couple of like articles about it, Reddit threads, watched that fucking Passion of the Nerd or Nerds or whatever YouTube breakdown of the episode, because everybody loves Passion of the Nerds in our Discord. So I was like, I want to cover all my bases, make sure I have a full grasp of this. And after all of that, I gotta say, I think I like this episode even less than when I first watched it.
The one base you didn't cover is listening to our previous episode, which I did.
Yes.
And I listened to the previous episode, and I think it actually holds up as a pretty good, accurate episode. We make some legitimate predictions that, like, I thought maybe that Tara was teasing that Dawn was coming. I didn't know Dawn was the name, and when she says the line Dawn here, when you we'll get into it, but later she says, "Oh, you got to wait for dawn" or something, talking about sunrise, but double entendre.
Be back before the dawn or whatever.
Yeah, be back before dawn. And the thing that we had an issue with was the surrealism of the episode. But
yeah,
in the previous podcast, all the funny moments, we called them out for being funny and great. We just didn't have a hat to hang up, something to hang our hat on for the plot and the story and the threat.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I was like, oh yeah, we don't really like the surrealism stuff because you can just do whatever. But the individual moments we did like. And we did say that was funny here, and that's crazy. And Giles is singing, that's wild. Anya's doing stand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we loved the cheese guy. We thought he was weird and random. And so I think that episode on the re-listen actually held up. I was worried about how hard we went in on it. But I think people or listeners might have been like, oh, I hope they just love this episode and just like, this is the favorite thing ever. And I'll say this. Joss was having fun writing this and was having a blast, and they're just playing around. And that's fine. But we also harped on the fact that this episode reiterates the same Scooby issue that like we just saw 2 episodes previously. And it's just like rehashing. It's like it's like a hat on a hat of like, okay, here's all their issues again. And we're like, we just saw that. So that was one thing that we talked about that I still felt that holds up. And my issues with the first Slayer, I think, are made even worse watching this episode.
Yeah, because I remember when we did this episode, I launched into a bunch of like psychoanalyses of the characters and like what was going on in the dreams. And people were like, damn, that was actually pretty good. And I remember that because one of the few compliments I ever get. But I'm just kidding. But all of that aside, I remembered a lot of like the funny bits, like, we got Cowboy Riley.
Yes.
We've got, Xander doing his creepy Xander stuff. We've got blah, 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 a bunch of other stuff going on. But upon rewatch and knowing what I know now and what a lot of the stuff was leading to, it's very underwhelming to me. Like, I feel like they could have foreshadowed a lot more interesting things than the things that they did foreshadow.
I felt like you can only foreshadow so much in a 22 like this isn't a 10 episode, okay, we have the whole arc for the next season or the next 2 seasons. Like the stuff that happens in season 6 is very loose. Like the most they can really have is like some stuff in season 5. The terror reveal, Terry getting shot. They kind of knew they were going to kill her off. There's a moment where Oz is with her and like, I warned you about her, stuff like that. And they say it's a Greek tragedy. So all that stuff is like, you can allude to, but it's hard to like allude to stuff in like season 7. They kind of get to a little bit of that with the alone thing, but that's like a thread that they have, but it's not like they were teasing the ending. They did not know what the end of the series was going to look like at that point. It's like impossible.
Well, that's what's annoying to me is like looking at all of the breakdowns and stuff of this episode is like they're giving Joss so much credit to be like, oh yeah, and he was planning this, he was planning that. And a lot of the stuff that they're foreshadowing, they're like, oh yeah, that was going to pay off. And it's like, was it? Or did he just like force that into season 7 or whatever?
Well,
like,
I mean,
I did something like in Restless. Let me just fucking, here's a little Easter egg. We're going back to that.
I mean, that's good writing. I mean, that's what they did a lot with Breaking Bad. A lot of the stuff, they would like look back and see what they'd done and be like, oh, how can we pay that off? Or how can we like turn that into something? Or how can that little thing that happened have a bigger meaning? Like, I'm fine with that. The stuff in here that he actually had planned versus the stuff that's, I mean, you can talk more specifically about the stuff that you think he didn't plan and that in hindsight people are like putting onto it. I did want to bring up though, because watching this made me think about how I don't like ghost horror stuff that much because of you could just do anything and then at the end it's just, all right, that's it. This has that vibe completely. The all a dream vibe where everything can happen but none of it matters stuff. Yeah. And I was thinking to myself, do I like surrealistic surrealism?
Surrealistic
surrealism. Do I like it? And then I was thinking, oh yeah, I like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I like Twin Peaks. This movie, The Holy Mountain, Suspiria, the original one I liked. I liked Swiss Army Man. And I was like, okay, these are all surreal movies. And the ones I like didn't like, I remember not liking Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas when I watched that when I was younger. I might appreciate it more now. I didn't like Fantasia when I watched it when I was younger.
The Disney classic.
Yeah. And I didn't really like Being John Malkovich that much when I first watched it. Again, another one I might appreciate more now if I saw it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
See, I generally tend to stray away and don't enjoy surrealism because I think it's just very like wankery, like, oh, look at this. Oh, you don't even understand. Oh, here's all this crazy deep meaning. And I just feel like the thing that people laud this episode for, like I read a bunch of Reddit threads and like a lot of people agreeing.
Oh, you became
this is like
an
a
internet
top
person.
Well, yeah, I was just because I wanted to get a full grasp of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like a lot of people were like, this is one of my favorite episodes. This is a top 3. Like maybe at the time I didn't understand it, but after watching the entire series and now going back to it, this is like in my top 3, top 5. And I understand, and what they say, a lot of it is like, it's an intense character study of each of the characters and what their fears are, where they think they are, where they think they're going in life, and what they're, like trying to accomplish. But throughout the entirety of, we've already seen everything. All of these fears have been present for 4 seasons. They've discussed them for 4 seasons. They've lived them for 4 like they've vocalized these exact same fears 4 seasons. And then we have to have a dream episode that's like, ooh, hoity-toity surrealism just to go over the same stuff. So I don't even think that stuff is that interesting because I've got 4 seasons of the show showing me all of this already. And then if you're going to like put a hat on a hat of having a dream episode where you're like, oh, Willow's insecure. Oh, Xander feels like he's stuck in a rut and he doesn't know where he's going in life. Oh, Buffy feels alone. Oh, Giles doesn't know his place now that he's not a real watcher. Like I've seen whole episodes dedicated to this stuff already. I don't need another wankery where you're like, oh, this is so surreal. Like the cinematography is great. Like when they're going through all of the different sets and everything. But beyond that, it's all information that I already know. And then the stuff that they're foreshadowing, I feel like isn't that important. And it's not that consequential to the larger plot of the show and the larger themes that they tackle later on. That's my big issue with the show or the episode.
I think the tricky thing is it's teasing stuff that you don't know you're being teased. So you can't appreciate the teasing. It's the cliffhanger. It's like if you have when she's looking at the bed and it's a cliffhanger and they know Dawn's coming, which is a cool thing that they know is coming. That is weird when you don't know that's happening and you just are seeing it. So you're just kind of left in more limbo.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, like, and that's I feel like, I don't know, man. Like here, for instance, I'm going to go through like, I took like structured notes. I wrote everyone's dream, what I liked about the dream, what I didn't like about the dream.
This is why you can't understand the episode because you're too linear.
Can't do the surrealism.
Like I love a narrative driven thing. And that for me is, I think when I was like looking back at some of the surreal movies I like, they have a narrative through line to it, you know? Like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I know what he's trying to do. And now you can have a lot of fun with him trying to do it. When we're watching this episode, I couldn't tell what, it was hard to be like, what are they doing and what's after them? So I didn't know what they were running from and why and it was a dream sequence. So I was like, also the threat doesn't feel real. And it's coming right after the giant threat of Adam. So
yes.
I'm just like kind of watching cool stuff. And I think that's why on rewatches, people can appreciate this more because you can just like, you don't have to actually like think about what's coming, what's happening, what's going on. You could just turn it on and be like, okay, this is just fun. I'm watching my characters do fun. And Riley is being funny and the best he's been all series.
Yes. Riley got to stretch his legs as a cowboy or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I don't know. I if you don't mind, Vance, I would kind of like to break down dream by dream what was going on.
Sure. I mean,
okay.
You want to do this for yourself or for the audience? Because we've done this
for
fully
myself. Because
we've definitely gone beat by beat through this already.
Yeah. So upon going through everything, Willow's dream, I feel like the large theme of Willow's dream is, like I said before, Willow is insecure. Tara's talking to her about like, you know, they're going to find out who you are or whatever, which I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's a little bit of a hinting towards like Dark Willow or something in here. And I didn't see it when I watched the Passion of the Nerd video. He was like, yes, Tara, like in the scene where like Willow's painting on Tara's back, the poetry of Sapphic from Isle of Lesbos or whatever. Mm-hmm. He broke down that it was like Tara's always in the light and Willow's in the darkness. So it's like they're this yin and yang situation apparently, which I didn't pick up on. I feel like that might be a little forced of a like reading into situation.
Yeah.
But it's like Willow's feeling insecure. They're going to, and here's the other thing that they foreshadow in this particular part of the scene is like, Tara's like, you don't know everything about me, which was like cool at the time because we saw Tara throw that like dust under the bed and she fucked up Willow's spell because Tara was this mysterious figure at that point. Mm-hmm. And then what they're foreshadowing with that line is the episode Family, where Tara is like, she's worried that she's a demon and because her family is like told her that she's like part demon the entire time. And it turns out, that wasn't true.
Yeah, I don't mind that as a tease.
I hate it.
I don't mind it as a tease thread because did you I'll ask you this. Did you not like it when Tara threw away that dust? and was hiding the demon thing, that was cool. That made you go like,
that
what
was
is
interesting.
It, right? That's what I'm saying. And this right here makes you go, oh shit, she's still up to something. It's the same thing. It's a doubling down on it, but it's the same effect. The outcome,
but it's ultimately one of those like fake out, like, oh, there really was nothing there.
Yeah,
that's
but I don't mind that episode that much because she actually believed that though.
I don't mind the episode. I don't like the like hardcore, oh, this is mysterious, this is mysterious, this is mysterious. Psych, no, it's not. It's nothing. There's nothing going on there.
I think what makes this trickier with Tara, I mean, not this moment specifically, but the fact that she replaces what was supposed to be David Boreanaz' Angel at the end. Yes. I think that added a lot more to Tara's importance in this episode, it seemed like, which then I could see that getting undercut a little bit by her just like being nobody or just being a regular person with like witch powers.
Yeah, and I feel like on the original time that we recorded this, it was like, whoa, maybe Tara's more important than we're even letting on.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, oh, this was like a really good tease for like what Tara could be. And like, that was really good. So I feel like that.
But then all of that leads to Tara's not, she's just a regular person. I mean, she's a witch, but like.
Which we should have seen because they do the same thing in season 7 with Giles. They like to do this setup and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know,
I feel like
we brought up.
I feel like largely the stuff that they're foreshadowing in this episode doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, we brought up living conditions where they make it seem like Buffy's roommate is just a regular person and kind of annoying, but then they do the opposite and she actually is a demon. So you can do it different ways, and it's just a storytelling tactic, and you know, but yeah.
So. There's that, and then we have Willow doing her like stage fright thing, which we literally have had 2 episodes, like in Nightmares. It's dedicated to like that's Willow's nightmare, and like we're revisiting this again in the talent show episode. Willow has stage fright, and she's like, so it's stuff that we already know. And then Willow goes through the hallway of vagina flaps, and
this is like this for me was where I was like, all right, Joss is just playing around because the death of a salesman thing, all that stuff is funny.
It's very funny.
It's funny.
But if you're
he's just playing around. He's playing around. Yeah.
But if you're looking at it as like, I was watching this, like trying to pick apart like the puzzle, looking for any clues of anything. And there was nothing in this.
Listening to our previous podcast, I remember you saying that you were doing that same thing. And I remember saying, I wasn't. If I got stuff, I got it. If I didn't, then I figured I'd get it later or not. Like I was not trying to dissect. I was going into the second watch even less dissective, being like, oh, if I get it, I get it. Because I still don't know who that cat is. Who's the cat?
Yeah. Well,
is it Faith? Is it Faith? Little Faith walking around?
Something that people also brought up in their, analysis of this is, which I thought was interesting. This is a new thing that I hadn't previously thought about when watching this episode and reviewing it, is not only are the dreams how the dreamer thinks of himself, but how they view the other characters in the show. So when Willow's dreaming, she just sees Riley as this like, hey there, I'm a rootin' tootin' Texas cowboy. Like I'm rule follower. And she kind of has Buffy kind of ditzy, and Tara is like the light of her world and her guide. And just like, she needs Tara to go on. And like, I don't know what I'm doing without you, basically. And Giles is like the director, and she's like kind of like, oh yeah, Giles is like a smart and handsome guy, and like he knows what's going on. So I thought that was an interesting.
And Harmony's a vampire.
Yeah, a goofy, silly vampire.
Yeah. That's a good. That is a good take, because later, to the last episode, Willow still thinks Buffy's a little idiot.
Yeah, Buffy's not the brightest bulb, and the Passion of the Nerd guy, he goes through several instances up until this point where Willow's like, Buffy, you don't really get this, do you? Like where she's like tutoring Buffy.
Oh my God. When Buffy did well on the SATs, Willow was not having it. She was like, you can't be strong and smart.
So that was a new thing that I picked up on, or like people mentioned that I was like, okay, well, that's pretty interesting to like see how they view the other characters through that lens.
Were they teasing Willow as a bad turning bad, basically, with the whole outfit stuff? Because that is something I brought up in the previous podcast, and I listening to it, I'm like, okay, she's wearing the exact outfit from the first episode, and I'm like, I don't know what this outfit is.
Yeah.
That's what you're listening to, and you're like, oh no.
Well, here's something that I was like, oh, I could see how somebody would mention this as a foreshadowing plot, is when Buffy rips off Willow's clothes. I was like, oh, is that like kind of flaying? Like how she ripped off Warren's skin? But nobody mentioned that. And I was like, I'm surprised nobody would, because there's so much forcing, like, oh, that was foreshadowing that.
Yeah. But it's Buffy doing it, so it's like a different, Yeah,
it's Buffy ripping off her clothes to reveal Willow's insecurity of feeling like she's still a nerd, and she's wearing all these cool personality, like the new clothes of the cool person that she's pretending to be, when really she's deep down just afraid of being that nerd dork in high school.
I brought this up in the previous podcast, and I still think it holds true here. I think the outfit that she's wearing isn't cool enough that when she rips it off, she's in her first season outfit. And it's like, it's going from like colorful to bland. But the colorful stuff she was wearing still made her look very childish. So it wasn't as if she was dressed like the Halloween episode where she dressed up like Buffy, sexy, and then she ripped it off. Like, go back to being your nerdy overall wearing self.
Yeah.
I think they could have had the different outfits there. You could still go back to the first episode dress if you wanted to harp back to that. But what she's wearing in that scene, she needs to look better, or like she's trying too hard. But
yeah, no, I agree. But that's kind of like the crux of Willow's dream. I feel like, my point of view,
my only notes from that is when Oz is sitting with Tara, who from the trivia wasn't even supposed to be it wasn't supposed to be them there. It was supposed to be Amy, the witch / rat, and some other people, and Larry, I think, were supposed to be in the classroom. But I do like that it's Oz and Tara, and then Oz leans over to Tara and says, "I tried to warn you about her."
Yeah,
which that's some foreshadowing for get away from Willow, because
we also we also became a part of that team.
But what else is there? I thought the death of the salesman stuff was funnier on the second watch, because I could just watch it and I wasn't reading through it and just listening to the lines that they're saying and how they randomly bring up salesmen and they're dying and they're so good. Yeah.
Well, one other thing, and just hat tipping that Passion of the Nerds guy even more. He was talking about how the poem that Willow is painting on Tara's back, she didn't get to a certain, she's painting it, but there's still more to the poem. And the poem ends basically
on her ass,
saying that, it finishes on her ass. Don't worry, we'll get to Xander's dream.
Xander's line in this one. Sometimes I think of two girls doing a spell, and then I do a spell myself. Magic equals sex.
Dude. And that's Willow's subconscious thought of Xander is he's just a horny dipshit.
Yeah.
Which is true. But
she's looking at her two lovers and right there talking, Oz and Xander.
Well, that was another interesting thing, is that she's looking for Tara, and she's paying no attention to Oz and Xander, the two guys that kind of rejected her, and she's like, hey, yeah, I'm done with you guys. You're in my past. She doesn't even look at them really. But that part of the poem that Passion of the Nerd said that she didn't get to was something about how, a woman's in love with another woman, and she will make that other woman love her, even if it's by force or something like that. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting, because when we get to the forget me not type of thing, where Willow is just oh, we're fighting, psych, not anymore.
Yeah, I think that's retroactively put there. I don't think he planned that, since that's in season 6. But yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll get to some season 6 stuff.
Yeah,
that people say is foreshadowed.
Well, I think it's reverse foreshadowed, which is good. I think if you're watching this episode in the time it came out before DVR'd and like you couldn't just find this episode. You would just watch it on TV, and if you didn't see it, you didn't see it. Maybe DVD, maybe this is, I forget the exact time. So DVDs are probably.
It's the year 2000. I think DVDs are probably just coming into.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's not even like peak DVD replay value here. So you really wouldn't be able to parse this all out like you can now with the internet, like with all these video essays. Before we move on to the next one, I did want to bring up the beginning stuff. This was Riley's first time meeting Joyce, which I thought was interesting. Just going back, I didn't know if they met, but why would she? He was in college.
Did you notice how pointedly I said finally?
It was it was nice to see Joyce again for a bit.
Yeah.
And the Scooby's falling asleep immediately is still funny to me.
Oh, no, that was very funny.
So good. Yeah.
That was good. Also, another thing that I don't know if I mentioned this on the first time we did the podcast, but the first Slayer is killing each of the Scoobies in their dreams based off of like the card that they played on to do the Atom spell.
In the order of the card they pulled or whatever.
Yeah. So like Willow, she gets her spirit sucked out by the first Slayer, which I feel like is very visually hard to do. And I was like, when I saw the first Slayer attacking Willow and like her face gets sucked in, I was like, oh, is that Dark Willow or what is that?
Oh, I thought she was just like drained of her life force.
I guess that could be your spirit or whatever.
Yeah. But the thing is, in a normal episode, you would see that happen and you'd be like, oh boy, this is crazy. What's going on? And we talked about this in the previous podcast. The Xander portion of this episode is so long.
Yes.
And it feels long. The problem is it's long and it feels long. And and while we're watching that, there's no threat for like until very at the end. So normally you get the threat and then you're like, oh boy, this threat's coming. And then the threat comes at the end of the Xander one. You're like, okay, so we're halfway through the episode and what are we fighting again? Like dude, that's the narrative thread that I think needed to be woven in a little differently to keep you like engaged in a narrative through line. But yeah, no, I'm with you. Like even upon second watch, I kept, because I knew where it was ending with Xander's dad coming down the stairs and attacking him, and I kept being like, oh, okay, here comes the dad part. It kept going.
Oh, okay, wait, then now it's the dad part. Oh wait, yeah, there's that part. Okay, now it's got to be the dad part. I was just
now,
I was like,
now, yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, and then that happened.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I forgot about like the part that I largely forgot about in Xander's dream is when he's with Armin Shiverman redoing the Apocalypse Now thing, because I remembered the sandbox stuff and the playground. I remembered the ice cream truck and the lesbian Willow stuff, but I completely forgot about him with redoing Apocalypse Now.
Yeah. God, Armin Shimerman. We mentioned it on the last podcast, but he's great. He's great
he's
doing his brand, his Marlon Brando. It's just so fun. Yeah.
But again, like the thing that they're supposed to be, you know, this is such an intense and great character study, is about how Xander feels like he's useless and not really going anywhere in life, which we saw the entirety of season 4. There's a whole episode, the Zeppo, where Cordelia is like, you're worthless. And he like that's such a better character study episode than this.
Beer Bed is a character study because he's grown up here, but now he's just a townie. So he's a loser and he works at the bar at the college, and the people at the college look at him like he's a loser.
Yes.
And he's the person that's helped save this town multiple times.
Yeah, dude. And it's just like, I get that Xander is feeling in a rut. Like, we don't need to rehash all of this. And then I was like looking for more. All right, well, I get all this. Where's the foreshadowing?
The issue comes where it becomes indulgent. And Joss is just having fun writing this stuff and just playing around. And I get it. It's not my favorite thing. I don't dislike the episode as much as I've disliked other episodes I haven't liked. I just think the structure of this type of episode and character study and dream sequencey stuff isn't my favorite type of storytelling. But the stuff they do within it is fun.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take like individual like little sections can be entertaining. Like like that's what I'm saying. Like all the little pieces can be fun with their own stuff. As a whole, it's not my favorite way to tell a story, but as the little pieces are going and like Giles and Spike on the swings, which are teasing Randy Giles.
See, and I don't even think that's that cool of a tease.
Well, it's not a tease because you don't know it's coming, and when it comes, it doesn't matter if you knew it was coming or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can see that retroactively, but if you're watching it in real time, that's just interesting, weird little thing. Like I thought them when the swing's going high, which is like fun and interesting, but if you don't know what's coming next, you're just looking at that.
Yeah. And I remember looking at that and being like, what was that about?
Mm-hmm.
And predicting stuff about like, oh, is Giles going to take Spike like under his wing or something? Like what's going on here? But then it's ultimately like kind of, again, that's Tabula Rasa's in season 6. So people are like, oh, that was foreshadowing Tabula Rasa, which I'm like, bullshit.
No,
and even if it was, Tabula Rasa, like very fun episode, loved the episode, but it's such a nothing episode that's not a larger thematic thing, I feel like.
You think
it's a
Tabula
fun
Rasa's or you're talking about this scene or Tabula Rasa?
Tabula Rasa, the episode. Like,
you think that's
foreshadowing.
A one-off episode?
Yeah, I think that it's not
that's
really...
the episode
like,
that leaves Tara to like leave her and like Willow to go on her like anti-magic journey.
But that's not what Xander's dreaming about.
Oh, no. I mean, that's the thing. Like I think you take more issue in what people are saying after the fact things meant. Because I can't say that Joss knew that was going to be it. I'll say this. This is the thing I'll say. A moment here when they're at the sandbox is Xander references like a shark with a shark on land. Yeah. And they might have gone back to this, heard that scene and been like, you know what? Let's make a lone shark character from this. Like they didn't know they were going to make teeth and have cat gambling and all that stuff. But they probably went back to this, saw that and was like, you know, it'd be funny if we did make a teeth shark. Now, for me, that's fun. That's fun that they went back and they were able to like pick that out and make something fun out of it, out of the randomness.
I'll give more credit if that's the way that they do it. But like, I feel like a lot of the people that are viewing this episode are like, oh, this is foreshadowing that, versus Joss went back and watched that and then added.
Well,
like,
that's what my question is. My question is your criticism of the people that are saying that he did that. Because from what I know about.
You know what? I think that is my problem with it, is like people are giving Joss way too much credit of like, oh, he had this whole thing planned out. He was foreshadowing this.
No, that's not how, that's just not how.
That can't be what's happening.
That's just not how TV writing works.
I just think that people are giving him too much credit for this foreshadowing, you know?
Yeah, no. But you can retroactively go back and be like, oh, we did this. Let's make this thing happen. And that way, when you watch something beforehand, it seems like they had planned it out. That's just good writing where you go back and check. And yeah, like I've done that in my own writing and stuff. So like, yeah, that's why I was pushing on you, because I didn't want the criticism of the episode to be other people. It felt like your criticism was more of other people saying that this was planned all along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other criticism of it is like, if it is foreshadowing stuff, the Giles, like if Xander's dreaming about a foreshadowing of Tabula Rasa, what does that mean for Xander's character? Like Tabula Rasa isn't like an important episode for Xander's character.
Yeah, he's not in this scene doing that. That's not what's happening in the scene at all.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and also I want to say,
yeah,
one little tiny nitpicky thing. Yeah. People say that Spike is wearing the same suit that he's wearing in Tabula Rasa in this swing scene. It's not the same. No.
Okay. Yeah, because it's not the thing. because later Buffy is doing something in a bag, and they're like, "That's the bag that the Slayer has," you know?
Yeah.
And that's one of those like, yeah, you go back to Restless and you pick out what you like from this episode, and then you put it in we didn't have a killer toaster, but a microwave blew up, and that was, you know, you can go back and retroactively do that stuff. I will not criticize the episode. Like, what I would have loved to see is if you could have watched something or gone back to the message boards and see what people wrote right after watching this episode when it first aired, because they don't even have season 5 in there. They haven't seen season 5 or 6, right? So how did people react in real time to this? Because it seems like people in real time to this also were a little confused and didn't love it as much and was like, what is this? So
yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the most interesting thing that happens really in Xander's dream is like his view of Buffy, where he also kind of looks at Buffy like, you're a kid that I need to help protect, and like you're like a sister to me. And even Buffy like kind of puts to bed his like crush. God damn, there's like a leaf blower or some shit going on outside. I want to kill myself. But Xander, like,
you're gonna pull a Chloe here. You're gonna have Buffy call you an idiot.
I'm weak. I'm stupid.
You could not handle Kennedy's drill sergeantness.
Yeah, but Xander in his dream, even putting to bed for himself, like Buffy's looking at him as a brother, and he doesn't like the rest of he doesn't sexualize Buffy or Anya in his dream, but everybody else gets it. Like he gets Joyce and he's like, oh, hello, Joyce. Oh, and then his only concept of lesbians is probably from porn. So he's looking at Willow and Tara in like a pornographic, like, oh, this is what all lesbians are like sense. So he's still trying to like figure that shit out.
That holds up because that's the part of like Joss in his interview, like in the trivia, is that this is the turning point where, and I thought about this, he doesn't really go after Buffy at all. Yeah. And this made me think about, we talked about this on the first podcast, the first version of when we first did this episode. When he gets up, he says, oh, I'm going to go to the bathroom in his dream. And Buffy says, do you need a hand? And he doesn't make a sexual joke there. He just goes, no, I think I can handle it myself. And I remember commenting on like, oh, I think that's so weird that he didn't have a quip there. But that was a really telling moment that he doesn't see Buffy like that. Like if someone else had said that, he might have said some like sexual.
Yeah. Oh, I think you're going to need two or some shit like that.
I'm going to need more than just your hand. Or something. You know, like he would have done something like that. But with her, it's like, no, he doesn't have any more. She's no longer a sexual thing for him. It's more big brother, little sister kind of thing. Which gets a little muddled when you also throw in Giles' daddy things. It's like, how many people are protecting Buffy at this point?
Yeah. So yeah, and then like, you know, his dad, who is a completely different dad than the dad that we see.
Yeah, I mean,
but like his dad comes down as kind of the first Slayer and like tears his heart out. And my thought was like, not his eyes? I thought this was the seeing guy. I thought that he was I know that the heart was the card that he drew for the first Slayer spell, but like afterwards I was like, they should have killed Xander with Caleb and have him rip his heart out. That would have been an interesting foreshadowing.
Well, not like a retro foreshadowing. I think that's what we have to say. It's a retroactive thing where you go back and go, because that's why Andrew goes like, you're the heart. Yeah. Because remember we watched that episode and didn't Buffy call like Spike and Xander the heart at one
the strength. She was like, you give me my strength or whatever.
Oh yeah, that was a strength. But then he gets called the heart. But then he gets his eyes poked out because you're the one that sees everything. And that's when it got real clunky at the end. Yeah. But the heart thing and Andrew, that's a cool callback if you watch that and then you have the DVDs and then you're watching Restless. You're like, oh, cool. That's the thing from that. He wasn't planning that, but it's a retro thing. Like before the season, you'll go back, see what you did, play it forward. Because this show in general, we've given it a lot of credit of going back and referencing things. Yes. Like they've done that a ton. And that's what I think some of this stuff is doing. So.
Yeah. And then we also get a little hint of like Anya foreshadowing, going back to being a vengeance demon.
Exactly, yeah.
And Xander's like, no, don't do that. And that's basically the end of that. And I'm thinking about getting back into vengeance. I don't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of like where I left it with Xander's dream, which was like so little to dive into for such a long portion of the episode.
So indulgent. That is the thing about this. It's an indulgent thing, and when stuff. Joyce hitting on Xander was still weird to me.
Well, the whole thing of like when they're panning up to her and she says something like, isn't it more about comfort? And her lips aren't moving.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, is that a remaster issue or is that just like not supposed to happen?
That was artsy on purpose.
Okay. I'm a conquistador. I'm a confortador.
And it comes back up when he's talking to Snyder. I'm a confortador.
Yeah.
Such a weediness though.
I feel like there's interesting stuff, and the least interesting thing and the least, I guess, character study is the whole Apocalypse Now thing with Armin Shiverman. Like that was probably his section of like, I'm just having fun here. There's nothing here. Unless it's somebody said like, oh, that's how Xander views authority figures or something.
Yeah. I just love a good parody thing. Even though I haven't even seen Apocalypse Now, and I didn't see it then, I haven't seen it since we recorded the first episode. I just loved Shimmerin, like just so fun. Yeah. I
saw like a side-by-side comparison of the scenes.
Yeah.
And it's pretty accurate, man.
Oh, yeah.
Did a good job.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
So then Giles's dream starts with him like hypnotizing Buffy and saying something like, this is the way men and women have behaved since the beginning, which was like, okay, well, that's like his role as a watcher, and Buffy's scoffing at him and like laughing at him. And it's like, yeah, we've seen that. That's been since episode 1.
Yeah. He's like, also hypnotized her with the crystal and St. Kralik at her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But this is where they talk about the gender role stuff that gets played big in the last season thing.
Yeah.
Later,
especially with the Watchers and the first Slayer and all that kind of stuff. And Giles like doing the hypnotism and like, this is how it's been since the beginning. Like that's, I guess, his rigidity of his thoughts, and like he can't escape that rigidity and like his only traditional views and shit like that. And then Buffy's scoffing at him. It's kind of like throwing him out of his element.
He says it's her sacred birthright to protect mankind, I think he says. And the sacred part of that just really, after you see the end of the series, you go, they could have kept the sacredness and still did I think there's a way to do both. Yeah. It's the first Slayer issue.
Yeah, and then they go to that carnival and Buffy's playing Crack Drac and like trying to kill the Dracula, and people are like, that's foreshadowing Dracula. And I was like, again, so what?
Yeah, no, that is foreshadowing Dracula, which will be the next episode.
Yeah.
That much he can foreshadow. He can foreshadow Dawn. He can foreshadow Dracula. He can foreshadow Tara not being what she is and tease that. He can foreshadow that she's going to die because he knew he's going to kill her off at some point.
Yeah.
He doesn't know exactly how, probably, but they know that's going to happen. Drac. Good. Yeah, he got it. Nailed it.
Great foreshadowing. That tie-in WB made-for-TV movie episode that you did. Like, I know that Dracula has some kind of deeper insight into Buffy, and but it's the same insight that we get in this episode of like, oh, you're a killer or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I know what you are. You're dark. There's darkness in you. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, we fucking know that.
And he knows Riley's going to leave. That's when we get to Buffy's story. Like, he knows Riley's leaving at some point next season. So, yeah.
Yeah. Like in my note that I wrote here, in my essay that I wrote about this episode after watching it again, I said, it's meant to foreshadow Dracula, but that episode is a tie-in with the TV movie, so who gives a shit? I never once thought about Dracula after that episode, and it bore little to the series as a whole. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you can tease something. It doesn't have to, everything you tease doesn't have to have a longer standing thing, though.
I feel like it'd be way more interesting if it did.
I mean, if you tease that Oz is going to be a werewolf, then that's fine. But Oz being a werewolf actually does very little for the whole series. Like, I don't think I think you can tease things big and you can tease things small. So I don't think.
I feel like a lot of the teases are small though in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just having fun, being indulgent, and just like making certain references to like a few things next season, and then they retroactively went in and expanded upon some of them. That's all. That's just it's no way you can plan 3 seasons ahead like this.
Yeah,
when you're cranking out 22 episodes.
I saw some people trying to be like, "Oh, Giles singing is like foreshadowing once more with feeling." I was like, Giles has sung before.
Yeah, not at all. It's He wanted to do a musical episode, but he's not foreshadowing once more with feeling.
Yeah. And then the First Slayer slices his brain, which was the card that he had, or the mind or whatever, for the Atom spell.
Yeah. And there's a cheese guy going throughout all of this, which is just the most like Josh put that in as a random thing. I liked it in the previous podcast. We both liked it because it was just random.
Yeah. And
which is fine.
Like, that's
the only through thread in through the whole thing is is the cheese guy, and then you got the Slayer. The first Slayer just like walking around like a kind of on all fours and a ghost, and like it's just I do have some other thoughts on Giles as before you get into your cheese guy discovery, your cheese man discovery. We see Giles as Buffy's dad with Olivia, who was supposed to be Jenny Calendar, Robia Scott, but she had recently been a born-again Christian and was not happy about being Satan equivalent in a men's.
Yeah, I remember reading about that, about like she like rediscovered or discovered Christianity or something. It was like not happy about being a part of like this demonic show or whatever, and was like kind of like retroactively kind of disowning herself from the show.
She goes to the conventions now though.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, she's back in.
I mean, it's like you can be a born again Christian and like
you're an actor.
Play pretend.
Like no one turns down pretending to be Jesus in a role, but you're also not supposed to do that according to the Bible. But whatever. A buddy of mine did a horror movie and had a similar thing where an actress was like, I don't think I can do it because of her like religious belief, and it was like some exorcism movie, and it was like it's a pretend thing. It's not a. It'd be one thing if it was a documentary and they were like want you to like do a full reenactment in a real life documentary that's promoting. I don't know.
Yeah.
But hey, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. So we get Olivia back, which I'm happy she's in and she's out. I also thought Olivia being here was actually, I think the people that dropped out actually kind of made it work better, minus Angel, minus David Boreanaz not being there. And maybe even so, he might not have been great out there too. It would have been a weird thing to have, like, I think it's better there's 3 women out in the Slayer land than just Dark Angel in the brightness in his like jacket. I don't know. But Olivia here
got his jacket over his head so he doesn't burst it.
He's got a little parasol. But I liked Olivia here because it was like a life that I think it foreshadows a life. It foreshadows Giles wanting to leave more because this is the thing that he couldn't have, as opposed to what he lost. It's like he can go back to London and like maybe have Olivia, because Olivia was like, I'm done with this shit, man. I lived through Hush. I saw the gentleman at the door. I'm out. So I liked her being in it. So
and it's like she's pushing around an empty stroller, and Giles is like being led around by Buffy, and Buffy's like, come on, Giles, come on. And he's just like, come on, dude. Like, And so he's like she's dragging Giles away from the life that he could have, like with Olivia, or a normal life, or just being a watcher. That whole thing is dragging him away from the normal life. Yeah. And everything I said about Spike from the first episode, that stands. There you go.
Yeah. Only thing I found more was that he's in black and white because they wanted him to be like a 1930s villain. Just, Whedon's like stuff that he liked, basically.
Yeah, his obsession with fucking.
I like Giles' song in this.
It's great.
It's so good.
This song is so much better than anything he did in Once More Feeling. I feel like
so good.
I've got to warn Buffy and Xander and Willow with their heads down and the lighters up, researching.
And that was the intro to our original podcast episode, and I was like, yeah, this is a good one. This is a good one. And I think the Restless episode that we did is actually good. Like we're not like high praise on the episode, but we do dive deeper into like all the funny stuff. I thought we did a good job for first watch viewers of that. I will say this is just going to set up for the Buffy stuff. Giles is getting scalped, and he says the first Slayer never had a watcher, as if that's why the first Slayer is bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is also Giles'
I have a
dream.
whole rant. I have a whole rant about the first Slayer thing, but we can get into that once we get past this thing.
And then further on, like with Giles is, because, if this is how Giles views himself and everybody else, like he views Buffy as like a child. He views like Xander as a fucking unfunny dipshit. And Willow is like they have Xander do like one of his quips, and his quip goes on for way too long. And Willow's like calls him Rupert, so it's like, does he think of her as like an equal or like something like that? And he thinks that Anya is also like an unfunny dipshit.
Yeah, because she's doing stand up that's getting like laughs, and she's over explaining.
She's doing
her
like
jokes
popsicle stick jokes.
Yeah.
And then he sees Spike as some kind of freak show, like oddity thing.
That's gonna have sex with his daughter.
So then we get to Buffy, and I feel like Buffy's dream is the most consequential, and I mean obviously it would be because she's Buffy, but it has the most like interesting stuff in it. I feel like,
in the original podcast I mentioned that Xander's is so long, and we still have to get to Buffy's, which is the main character, which we feel like we don't have enough time for. And it does feel like this one just ends abruptly. Yeah,
man. But Buffy's dream, like her, she's talking about being lonely, and she's alone. And which is, again, something that we've rehashed a zillion times. She sees herself as like distant from the Scoobies, like her friends. And she's like, I'm distant. Like, we have a shot of Xander who's like walking up the stairs, and it's so far away from where Buffy is. We don't see Willow really at all. But then she's talking to like kind of periphery characters in her life, which like Riley, her mom. And I feel like I had a pretty damn good breakdown of the mom scene the first time we did this podcast.
You did break it down.
Basically that her mom is walled off and like she wants to be a part of Buffy's life, but Buffy has her walls up and she could break down the walls, but then she's just more interested in doing other things and keeping that distance from her mom.
No, she's the body.
This is foreshadowing the body.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it's that, you know.
Yeah, but again, just a lot of rehashing of the stuff and then the references to the faith in Buffy dream with the counting down from 730 and that's when Buffy's going to die and that kind of shit.
A lot of teasing of Dawn.
Yeah.
Which
they said it like, oh, somebody said that they blocked out the O and the Y on the Sony alarm clock because it's like Sun AM, which is another thing. It's another reference to Dawn.
That was in the IMDb trivia that I saw.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had to read that like 50 times before I could figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
I was like,
and
wait,
then like,
I was like, you blocked out the O and the Y. So you got S blank N and then it's AM. And I was like, geez, no. I'm like, this is some QAnon level.
Yeah. And I saw another person that was like, and if you spell it backwards, MANS, that's like Manus, which is the card that Buffy had because she's the hand. And I was just like, come on, dude.
I do remember in the podcast, and even when I was watching this episode, when it's crazy. When I watched the episode, I almost missed Tara handing her the Manus card.
Mm-hmm. And
then I had to rewind it. And then I would listen to our podcast, and I did the exact same thing. I had to rewind that section twice. And I was like, I still don't really know. I guess she's a hand. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter that much. Yeah.
But yeah, like, and then Buffy's like, I gotta go find Willow and Xander. I gotta find my friends. And then Tara's, be back before dawn. And it's like, oh, dawn's coming, which, okay. Yeah, that's foreshadowing that. That's the most consequential foreshadowing that we have.
I love thinking about Buffy and her friend whole dynamic, relating it to Cat Williams from his interview with
Club Shay Shay.
And he's just like, you have an unnatural allegiance to losers. That's what I think about Buffy. Every time she goes, they're my friends. I don't care that they ripped me from heaven. I don't care. Like, she is so diehard to these friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, you know what? You know, like, some people don't stay friends with everybody the first people they met in high school.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever try to make other friends too?
Right?
I know it's a show. I know it's
town.
I know it's a show.
Town, Vance.
I know it's a cast. That college was full of people. My God, for a one Starbucks town, there was a lot of people, a lot of secret clubs, a lot of secret organizations.
Yeah, dude, that witch club had like 30 members.
Yeah, right. There's an initiative underneath the college. But yeah,
oh man,
it's a lot of her being alone.
Yeah, a lot of I'm alone. They have the scene with Adam and hey, what's up there, killer? What's up, killer? And then I feel like the interesting thing here is like Buffy's talking to Adam, who's in like his non-makeup robot form, and she says something like, "We're not demons," and then Adam's like, "Is that a fact?" Potentially foreshadowing like the fact that the Slayer has a demon heart in her or whatever.
Yeah, because later Buffy says something to the first Slayer, like, I don't get my power from you or something. One of her last lines was something, she says, you're not the source of me.
Yeah.
Or whatever, which was a crazy line then and now. Because you just used her power to defeat Adam.
Yes. Yes.
Weird. I don't even know.
Dude, their whole conversation at the end of this dream sequence with the first Slayer, like, I have so many problems with it, especially after watching the entire series.
This needed to be the episode through line. Like, it needed to be Buffy fighting, like Buffy dealing with the first Slayer and then trying to find her friends and then mixing it in. I know they blocked it off, but seeing Buffy and the first Slayer, you know what it needs to be? Kind of, what's that? A Christmas Carol. almost.
Yeah.
Where Buffy's like fighting with the first Slayer and like going through all the other people's stuff. And that way it gives you a through line. Like A Christmas Carol is this surreal story, but you know like what you're doing and you're following the character through it. And at the end of that journey, they become a little different. Buffy could still come out of this the same way she comes out. Like, I don't know what's happening and stare at a bed. But yeah, it's just something that's missing when at the end you get all the information about like the first Slayer and what it means. And she's in Slayerland. And you're like, no, we're done.
Yeah.
Like it's such a unsatisfying tease for what's to come for like what being a Slayer means. Like,
yes,
they took the first Slayer's power and you're like, okay, what does that mean? Then the first Slayer shows up, you meet her and it's like, oh, cool. Can we talk? Punch. And I don't need your help. Thanks for nothing. Yeah. Bye. Wait, you just used her.
Yeah, right?
You don't have questions, Buffy? She's the first Slayer.
Yeah. Like, and the first Slayer's like trying to give you all this information and you're just ignoring her. Like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah, it's like the first Slayer is just set up to be like, she says, no friends, just the kill. We are alone. So basically, she's talking exactly like the first evil.
Yes. Well, there was a part in the episode where Buffy goes, the first Slayer, or Tara through the first Slayer is like, you don't know who I am or something. And Buffy's like, you're the first. Mm-hmm. And I was like, which could have been.
Well, I do have a pitch for the finale, which I might have pitched already in one of our mini bonus episodes. But I think what would have been really cool is if Buffy summoned the first Slayer to take down the first evil.
Oh, so I don't think that you did pitch that. That would have been fun.
So that the first Slayer could satisfy the main reason of her purpose, which was to take down like evil. Now, granted, you could take down the first evil, but more evil could still exist, you know?
Yeah.
Like Buffy defeated the Master. The Master still had seasons after that. She's still fighting demons. It wasn't like she defeated the Master and all the vampires died. You can kill the first evil, and there's still multiple evils and multiple hell dimensions, so you wouldn't have to change
the second evil, the third, maybe the fourth.
Yeah. Glory was what, like number 158?
Yeah.
So it would have been cool if that moment when she gets the axe and she's just like, she summons the first evil or the first Slayer, and the first Slayer fights the first evil, and that because they're on the same plane of existence somehow. That would have been really nice payoff for the first Slayer.
Well, like,
yeah,
I just, when Buffy's talking to the first Slayer and she's like, I'm not alone. My first thought was like, oh, that's why they couldn't have used it in season 7, because she said that I'm not alone to the first Slayer. So instead they went with get out of my face.
Yeah.
But like, this flies in the face of everything that they do in season 7. And what you brought up is like, it's more interesting to, Buffy's not alone with all of the characters that we've been going with since season 1. And instead we get the potentials we don't really care much about. We haven't had enough time with. So when Buffy's like, I'm not alone.
And they cut, I feel like, and then they cut to a bunch of random people you just met this season that you don't really like. It just doesn't
like this
hit.
Moment with Buffy telling the first Slayer, I'm not alone, is more poignant because she's like, I have my friends. Like, sure, they're not Slayers, but they're with me. They got my back. Their ride or dies. But then they just go back and rehash the I am alone, like, for 3 more seasons.
Because early into season 2, she doesn't have anybody. And the end of that one is when Angelus is about to slice her down with the sword. And he's like, what do you got? You got no friends, no nothing? What are you left with? And it's like, me. And she catches it. So it's like, I can do it by myself. And then throughout that, it's like, no, you need your friends.
The finale of season 3, she gets all of her friends, her entire high school class to work with her.
Yeah.
End of season 4, she has all the Scoobies do the Atom spell. End of season 5, she has all the Scoobies doing their part to defeat Glory. End of season 6, Xander stops Willow and Buffy's with Dawn. like the show is her friendship with her friends, not the potentials, man. Like,
yeah.
God, this makes this so much worse. Like,
my issue with this thing is like after we get out of Buffy's scene, we can still go back into her stuff. But when they're at the table and Giles is like, "Yeah, I told you this could happen," and she's like, "No, you said there could be consequences, but you say that about like chewing too much gum or something." And I was just like, God, Giles, you really have been just not giving information. You have one job. One job. I go back to when he didn't give Buffy the Slayer handbook because it was like, oh, you don't read that much. I'm like, who cares if she doesn't read that much? It's your job to make her read. If you're an SAT tutor, you don't go like, they don't want to do it. Like just your job is to like help her get here. And season 5 is so frustrating at the beginning for me because she asked him at the end of the Dracula episode to tell me stuff. And all he does is like, hey, let's go on a vision quest. And that's about the extent of it.
Yeah.
And there's a couple episodes where she's like in a history class and reading about some things.
Yeah. Like and the vision quest is like so far deep into season 5 too.
Yeah. And you get like
come on, man.
And all that was teasing is that death is your gift. And that was just teasing that she needed to like die to save Dawn.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just want to know it's just like 5 seasons in the lore of Slayers. If you don't know what it is or you don't want to say it, I guess that's okay. But it's weird to kind of tease it and then it never becomes satisfying.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
That's why when Giles is like, oh, the first Slayer never had a watcher. I was like, what is that about? Well, I know at this point they don't know that these shadow men have like forced a demon into her probably. That's probably not in the lore yet. But those people were the first watchers, right?
Yeah, it's kind of, they're the proto watchers, I guess.
So the first Slayer why is the first Slayer a bad guy in this episode? That's what I don't get. That's the thing I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand it either. Like, why is the first Slayer coming after all of her friends and trying to kill her and
fighting
and stuff?
And also, is she? Because at the end,
Buffy, she's a sympathetic character.
But no, at the end, Buffy just goes like, no, we don't want this to happen. And she just gets up and sits on the couch and it's over.
Well, I remember that being an issue when we first did the podcast is Buffy's just like, the way that she defeated, she's like, no, you know what? I'm just going to wake up now. And that was it.
I was like, that's the most unsatisfying ending to this. Like, you didn't really learn a lesson. You were just like, nah, I'm tired. You're like, we're at 43 minutes on the show. I'm done.
Yeah.
And then like her talking about her hair and the workforce thing is a lot worse than I remember.
Well, I didn't remember that Willow also takes some shots at her too. She's like, oh, she could use some floss or some shit. I was like, oh yeah, this is catty as fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Little does Buffy know that she's had a demon heart like raped into her and shit. It's just like, God, dude.
I know. Like once you add that element in season 7, that's when I'm like, hey, maybe we need to bring her back, have her defeat the first evil, finish the arc of Slayers. Let her, because it seems like this first Slayer in this one isn't, God, I hate the Shadow Men for doing this to me. She's like trying to teach Buffy a lesson, and
she seems to be like aligned with the Shadow Men of like, you're doing it wrong. This is how you do it.
Not I'm a victim.
Yeah.
It's something about that just never sits fully right with me.
Yeah.
And going back to this was the thing that doesn't hold up for me as much as the first Slayer.
For sure. Like if you go back after watching season 7 and you go back, like this is what we did. We watched the season 7 and then we went back to Restless. And now looking at it, it's like, it just makes season 7 so much worse.
But I also don't understand why the first Slayer is I will say I don't get what the first Slayer is doing in this episode if you just took it as its own thing. She is fighting Buffy. Is she trying to kill these people? Because is anything she's doing actually doing anything? that's it's all a dream situation at the end. Really just makes it weird because it's like, oh my God, Buffy, you have to like stop the First Slayer. And she tells her, no, I'm done with this. I'm going to wake up. And then the First Slayer just goes away.
Yeah.
What was her end game? She starts stabbing Buffy and it's not working.
Yeah.
What? It's very confusing. And I just don't know what the First Slayers, is it just to like scare them into not?
Dude, I honestly have no idea.
I remember on the original podcast, I mentioned that they needed to do something like this to show that you couldn't just summon that every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's nothing to say that they couldn't just do it again, technically.
Yeah, just Buffy has a meeting with the Scoobs and be like, hey, if she starts fucking with you again, just say, I'm waking up now and just leave.
Yeah, we all have nightmares because we're all traumatized, so we never had a good night's sleep ever anyway. So, Buffy, we're going to rent some movies next time we all hop into your body and fight somebody and you go into the Matrix and stop bullets with your mind. And then
I forgot about that. Yeah. When I saw that in the recap, I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. So then we just... we'll just rent some movies, pass out on your couch, you fight her, and then we'll do it again. Rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Or we do it so that you can hang out with her again, but you don't seem to like the First Slayer. You think she's not going to be able to get a corporate job because of her hair. It's like, oh my God. The social commentary there is just rough.
Yeah. And again, reiterating your point about how like the First Slayer is a victim of the Shadow Men is the story that they tell in season 7.
Mm-hmm.
But in this episode, she's like telling Buffy like, no, you need to do it like the way that I did it, which I guess could be like a victim mentality type of thing.
Yeah.
Like this is the way to do it.
We don't need the First Slayer. I think even in the original podcast, I was like, how many friends did the First Slayer have? There doesn't seem like there's anyone around to be. It's not like she has a friend structure, you know? It's not like the First Slayer had a chance to be friends with another clan and was like, I have to wander the desert as a lone killer. Like, we don't, and it's not the same.
The way that we've pitched how the First Slayer should be is like a chosen one, like an actual, like held up on a pedestal. That would have been good because then it's like Spider-Man. I can't let people be too close to me because then they're in danger and I don't want my loved ones. Or like Wish Universe Buffy, who's hardened and like just like a badass,
a mercenary,
or even Faith. Yeah. Like they push people away, and Buffy pushes people away.
Yeah,
but not the same way. You know what I mean? But it's like you need to have that as opposed to like being assaulted with a demon heart victim. Like that sucks, dude.
They say it's a sacred birthright being a slayer, and then we find out. I mean, it's one
Giles.
thing.
Giles in Giles' mind.
But that's on I need Giles to. I definitely remember us bringing this up, but I want Giles to discover that the Shadowman thing, and then be like, "Oh crap! Everything I knew about Slayers was wrong."
Yeah.
And the way to do that is to have Giles tell Buffy anything about Slayers.
Yes.
So, like he could tell her a bunch of fantasy about Slayers, and this is how it happens, and then you get to season 7. And you could be like, that's not how it happened. Now, if that happens, now I'm like, okay, Giles got his information wrong. Double down on the Watchers being awful people, which we've already felt like. Buffy now has a new thing like, oh my God, I thought I was like a chosen one, but no, I'm just a victim too. And you could tie that into her abuse and like you can do stuff with that. But we don't, but they don't tell us what Slayers are and where they come from until literally the second to last episode where the Guardian's like, we're doing this thing. And then the Shadow Men are like halfway through that season. So we're 7 seasons in, we find out what Slayers are. And now I have to be like, okay, I guess that's what they are. And you don't have time to rationalize it because the Scoobies are kicking her out of the house.
And to your point, like
it's crazy.
It makes a sympathetic character out of Giles. Giles needs to have that moment of like everything I knew is wrong.
Yes.
And then like maybe apologize to Buffy. Like and then that makes that moment of him like, I'm following you now. Even more like it's poignant when he's like, this is my opinion if you'll have me or whatever. It makes it even more poignant if he's like, I'm sorry, everything I knew was wrong. I should have trusted you, whatever.
Yeah. Because Giles has that kind of moment in that Kralik episode where he's like, but he's so brainwashed by the Watchers that he's like, yeah, I'm going to drug this 18-year-old girl and just maybe she'll die because I'm a Watcher. Like, the seeds are planted that the Watchers are bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think the Slayer stuff just needs to be, it can be bad, but we need to think that it's good. It can't just be revealed to be bad at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. And you brought this up earlier when they said that I saw people being like, oh, and the bag that Buffy has, that's Nikki Woods' bag. I was like, bullshit, dude. Like, Buffy's carried around a duffel bag like that a bunch of times. And when she opens it up and puts the mud on her face like the first Slayer, I feel like that was like her accepting her duty as being a Slayer. And then Riley is Caesar. And he's like, oh, I thought you wanted to be normal or whatever. What's up, killer? Yeah,
he calls her a killer, and he walks away, foreshadowing him walking away, which is true. Yep.
Yeah. That's a good foreshadowing. Now that I'll give it credit.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a good foreshadowing.
Yeah. I just love that scene with him and Adam at the table. There's just so many good lines. Coffee makers that think, we've been filing things and giving things names.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, we need to make a fort. I'll get the pillows.
Yeah.
Just delivered so straightforward.
Well, from Buffy's view of like what Riley is doing, she like sees that he thinks that he's important, but she doesn't really think that what he's doing is important. Like, oh, we've been filing. Like maybe she doesn't understand what he's exactly doing, or she thinks it's all bureaucratic.
Yeah. But she does know. She does know enough that the first Slayer is not going to get that office job with their with their braids. And
I gotta say that shot where it zooms underneath of the table and you got the gun with Riley, that's still like an epic shot.
Yeah.
Even though it's, I don't know what it means. I don't know if it means hell of a lot, but.
You know what, listeners that like this episode, is this one of your top favorite episodes? It's a Riley episode, guys. You like a Riley episode.
I think you might like Riley, everybody.
Might like Riley.
But then there's the cheese man of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And Joss has gone on record as saying this cheese man's meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
And there are several threads, several essays, several just like think pieces about how, no, Joss is wrong or Joss is lying to us. The cheese man means all of this, which I'm like, this is the problem with fans.
Well, you can do this with anything. I remember when I was younger, I somehow went on like a tangent on a phone call about why the Easter Bunny, relating the Easter Bunny to like tying it to like Jesus dying on the cross somehow, and why there's an Easter Bunny. And I just, top of my head, I wish I remembered what I said.
You headcanoned the Easter Bunny.
Yeah, I was like, why is there an Easter Bunny for this? I just like went down it. I explained Easter eggs, the bunny, like, and tied it all together with Christianity and Jesus' sacrifice. You can do that with anything. You can do it with anything. And in this age of explainer videos and just feeding the content, just churning out content, sure. You can make the cheese man something. It's obviously not anything, but you can reference it something. It's foreshadowing Double Meat Palace and the lie of the food corporations. Like, you can...
The thing that the people note is like when Riley asks Buffy what she likes and she says, I like cheese. And they're like, this is Buffy's subconscious in all the dreams. And the cheese man is Buffy. And he's telling them hints about like what they're doing. And I think the one that Xander has, it's like, these won't protect you. It's like Buffy saying that I can't protect you from like your worst fears. And Giles is like, I wear the cheese does not wear me. It's like, oh, I'm a watcher, but it doesn't define me or whatever. I forget what Willow's was. And I was reading this essay about that, just being like, dude. And that's what I don't like about episodes like this. Well, because fans will take so much meaning in stuff that is like confirmed, canon, meaningless.
But you're putting your ire on the wrong thing. You're putting your ire on the fans that are taking too much out of it. Like, that's that's not what, like, Joss literally has come out and said it's not about the cheese guy. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're a
Yeah.
That's what
I know, but like also the episode as itself is fodder for that. So he's writing this episode and directing it to build fodder.
True, fair enough.
And like, here we go. Let's see what they fucking think about this. And it's meant to like, you know, make your mind wander and like, oh, what does that mean? What's this foreshadowing? What is this foreshadowing? And then when it gets paid off, it's like, oh, he foreshadowed that all the way back in season 4 in Tabula Rasa. And it's like,
well, that's just internet later. Yeah, that's the stuff. Like, I'll give you the fodder for the Cheeseman stuff, but when you go to like the later people saying stuff after seeing future seasons and stuff, that's when it's like more complaining about how the internet reads into things than it is about the episode itself. Like, I did love when the cheese guy shows up and he pops into frame when the first Slayer and Buffy. That's the most random.
I was like that one is, I feel like that's the funniest.
Yeah, because the other one's just like you look over and he's there or he's behind you or something. This one, he literally jumps out of nowhere in between the two of them. It's
after this like super tense exchange, he just
he's like
got the 2 slices.
Me and Joe both did the actual motion. Yeah, no, it was good. And I think like when we talked about it on the original podcast, like these are funny things within it. Like you can have fun inside of it, yeah. But the Xander and the Buffy's mom stuff got weird again at the end.
Yep. Buffy's mom. Buffy's mom. I think that's just like Xander feeling awkward about having that dream, though.
Yeah, but why is it like we brought it up in the last season when we introduced Caleb and he's awful, and then we cut to Xander having a fantasy
another sex dream.
And I was like, dude, don't put those two together. Don't put those two together. That's that editing thing where you can like show someone with a blank stare, show a dead baby, a blank stare, or like a blank stare, Candy, a blank stare. And it you can't put those together. Like it just says the wrong thing about Xander. And also, I don't think it was necessary. We go almost all season without him being creepy with them, besides them walking into the bathroom when he was showering there for some reason. Don't know why showering at Buffy's house, but sure.
Hey, he built that thing up over 100 times. I feel like he's earned himself a shower at Buffy's place.
You need to install another. Tito needs to put another toilet in the bathroom or in the basement or something. Yeah.
Buffy's got like a 7-bedroom house, 1 bathroom.
She's got 30 to 100 potential to live in there, man.
Yeah. But yeah, man, that's Restless again.
You know what's you know what I'll give this episode credit for? It's the origin of the you haven't even begun to begin.
You haven't even begun to begin.
We didn't even start doing the bit in that episode. The bit came after it, but this is the seed. Because that last line.
You think you know what's to come. You haven't even begun to understand what's to come. You're beginning.
I know, because Buffy woke up from her dream too early. Didn't ask any questions.
Look, if they wanted, and here's the thing, is like, they planned out season 5, right?
Well, I think they had
no
like a
foreshadowing of glory. They could have like I would have loved to maybe a foreshadowing of like you've angered a god or something like that. Maybe some kind of something like that. I get they're foreshadowing Dawn.
The foreshadowing Dawn is what leads to glory. Glory has nothing. I mean, you don't even really need to foreshadow Dawn, because Dawn, like, what does the monks have to do? You know, I mean, it's just I think he wanted to add a character. I think the way Dawn is introduced is unique for all the TV I've watched. I haven't seen a character just kind of pop in like that, really. So that was interesting. And I think that's what he was teasing for that, and some other stuff, some like earlier stuff. But yeah.
You know, Buffy leaves Tara, spiritual guide Tara's like, don't forget the key or something like there's so much opportunity for cool foreshadowing.
The question is, how much did they actually know? That's the tricky part.
Fair enough.
You haven't even had your room. You haven't broken down the season yet. I mean, they're doing 22 episodes.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah,
not,
fair enough.
yeah, like it's not one of those like we've got 4 seasons planned out already. So.
Yeah. But yeah, man, you got anything else to say about Restless, Vance?
No, I mean if you like surreal stuff and if you are really into these characters, and you can get down with this watching them rehash the feelings that they've. I mean, it's an accurate character study. I do agree with our assessment that we just saw that 2 episodes ago, and like you brought like the Zeppo,
the entirety of the series.
Yeah, yeah. And this is the only time the series has this extra episode. And I do remember
an epilogue.
Like I remember saying that I wish that if season 5's finale had an epilogue at the end, I could see it fitting more as a series finale type thing, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end, it was just like, oh, Buffy's dead. Here's the gravestone. Like, what? That's so like that was so like fine. That was so finite for 5, and this one is so randomly open.
Mm-hmm.
But it's such a strange. I think what really hurt us watching this too was that it was this episode after the Adam stuff.
Yeah,
which was like a peak, and then this was just like a let's just have fun because we have an extra episode. Like if this was episode 23, I would understand like if they had an extra episode. Because I remember, I think season 2 of Stranger Things was a 9-episode season versus 8, and one of those episodes, episode 8 between 7 and 9, because that's how numbers work.
7, 8, 9.
Yeah,
I was 6 afraid of 7.
Is the one where 11 goes on her like own little side journey, and it's like this one-off story that takes you away from the narrative arc of the season. Like episode 7 ended with like, oh, this thing's about to open. Then episode 8 was, oh, this is her doing some stuff randomly somewhere else. And then episode 9 was like, oh no, we're back to that thing about to blow up, and now that person's mission thing is over with. Now they're gonna come back, and you're like, that just messed up the whole flow.
Dude, you know what's the worst genre of television that does that? Anime is horrible with doing that. Anime will have like, oh, this big build up, and it's like, oh, the final battle's about to happen. Then the next episode will be like a 2-episode arc of the backstory of like a side character, and then you go back to the final battle, and then it'll be another episode backstory arc. It's like, just fucking battle already.
Is that what Dragon Ball Z is like? Which one is
I've never
like the
watched
long
Dragon
battle?
Ball Z.
There was one that was just like all battle, like one long battle. The whole episode would just be like punch and then talk or something.
Yeah, I think that Dragon Ball Z is kind of notorious for that.
Yeah.
But like anime is brutal with that kind of stuff.
I dove back into watching Summer Rendering. Is that what it's called?
Oh yeah?
Summertime
Rendering?
Summertime Rendering. I think I'm 9 episodes into it. It's interesting. It's very interesting.
It's a good concept.
Yeah.
I'm in like episode 16 now.
Is it one season? Is it one long season, or is it?
I don't know. I kind of stopped watching anime.
Is it?
I haven't finished it yet.
Okay.
But I kind of stopped watching anime that isn't finished yet because it takes so long for them to get to like a season 2 that I forget what happened. That's what happened to me with Attack on Titan. Like I watched the first 2 seasons, and then it took so long to get to season 3 that I forgot everything, that I'd like moved on to other things, that I have to rewatch 1 and 2 to understand what's going on in 3 again. So I was just like, but anyway.
Yeah, I was just wondering
Restless.
if Summertime Rendering was finished after the season, after the 30 episodes.
Yeah. Oh, it's 30?
I mean, I don't know.
Like
I went
18.
at first I thought it was just like I said, like a 10-episode season. And I was like, how many more do I have? And I was like, holy crap, this is a lot. I thought this thing just came out. I didn't know it was like, I don't know when they made this.
I think it is really recent, but the concept behind it is like so good.
Is it still good at episode 16? Or is it off the rails?
It goes in a different way.
Oh, it's all right. Yeah, every 3 episodes it does a turn.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's on Hulu if you're interested. You're still listening to this.
Yeah. It's interesting. It goes into a different way to where like the show is pretty different by where I'm at. But
is it a different season? I wonder if Hulu's breaking it down weird, because I know when I watched Death Note on Netflix, it was just like all the episodes. They didn't delineate when a season shift happened.
Yeah. Well, anime is also weird about like putting when the season ends and stuff. And you're like, oh, that's where the season ends? Oh.
Yeah.
Like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, like the first 2 JoJo's is apparently season 1. It's like, why didn't you delineate between the 2 JoJo's? And then the 3rd JoJo is 2nd season. And I was just like, whatever, man.
Only JoJo I care about is JoJo Siwa.
Oh, no. Only JoJo I care about is JoJo Aerialist, jojo.aerialist on Instagram.
That's my least.
That's me, baby.
That's my least favorite JoJo.
Oh. All right, Restless. Back into Buffy.
What was Michael Jackson's monkey called? Bobo?
I don't know.
Yeah. And now we have reached the point where we are just rambling.
Yeah, we've ran out of stuff to say. So yeah, that is Restless, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this take 2 on Restless. You probably didn't if this is like one of your favorite episodes.
Again, I think this episode has some fun stuff in it. The first Slayer portrayal is the thing that really hurts me the most when I rewatched it. When we got to the end of Buffy's thing, I was like, oh, they're just not going to do it, are they? And it just doesn't hold up. Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't like it. It's not even that I don't like the surrealism. I'm not a big fan of surrealist stuff. It's just that for what it is, it's supposed to be a character study. I've already seen it doesn't, I don't get anything new out of it.
Yeah.
That's kind of like my large overall point of this.
And the thing that you're going to get new out of it comes in Buffy's stuff. And then that's so truncated as to tease what's coming later. But we don't get any new info. We know there's a first Slayer. We know something's coming, but we don't get like new, like really vital information from there.
Yeah.
That's why I would have liked for her to be going through Slayer Land through the dreams throughout it. And you could still do all your weird, fun stuff and kind of, I don't know, maybe, you do whatever you want, Joss. It's your show. You had fun. You made 4 seasons. He's just having fun writing this thing. So knock yourself out.
All right. Well, that is a wrap for Restless, everybody. Thanks for listening. We're going to continue with our rewatches next week. And Vance, which one are we doing?
I remember the name of this one. We're going to dive into the episode that everyone loves, Amends.
Yeah.
We are rewatching the fan favorite Amends, the episode everyone likes.
Yeah, the episode that everyone loves. The source of season 7.
So we just saw our first showing of the first Slayer. Now we're going to see our first showing of the first Evil.
Yep, we're going back. We're going to pick it apart, see what we may have missed, see what could be happening. And if I obviously knew it was very opinionated about that episode, how boring and melodramatic it is, not enjoying it. Let's see if anything has changed.
I'm going to listen to our podcast. I'm interested in listening to our podcast. This is the order I did it. Behind the scenes, I rewatched Restless and then listened to our podcast. I did it the way I would do if I was actually watching something and listening to a podcast. And we have so much distance on it. It was interesting to go back and hear. And I was surprised that I didn't think we bashed Restless. I think we bashed Restless more in this one than we did in the previous one.
Now that we have the answers, it's like, oh, wow.
I'm less harsh on the teasing stuff, but yeah.
We were just confused little babes back at the end of season 4. Like, oh, what? Our eyes were bright and hopeful for the future.
I just can't wait to watch Amends and see Angel being a Chloe and smelling the sunrise.
Yeah, I can't wait for them to walk through that soapy snow.
Yes. Have you seen that clip of like that Dawson's Creek when they're walking on the snow and it's just like a sheet? It's so funny. I have to post that in the Discord.
That's hilarious. So yeah, be on the lookout for our rewatch of Amends. Join our Discord so you can see that thing that Vance is talking about. Let us know what you thought about Restless. I'm sorry. I want to send out a preemptive apology to people if this is like one of your favorite episodes. Different strokes for different folks. I am not a fan, but you can have that opinion that you love it as a character study or whatever. Join our Patreon, patreon.com/Boys Watching Buffy. where we are doing Boys Watching Angel, Boys Watching Movies, Joe's Fashion Report /Corner. If you want to get a shout out, Apple Podcast 5-star rating and review, Spotify 5-star rating, take a screenshot of it, send it in to us. We got an Amazon wish list if you want to throw us something off of that. We got merch that exists. Follow us on Instagram at Boys Watching Buffy. The email is boyswatchingbuffy@gmail.com. And stay tuned next week for when we do another review of Amends.
Well, you showed up later. You'd have a better part. I'm Cowboy Guy.
Seltzer Kings.
Podcasts.